At what point does a child stop being a child? Is it when they tell their first lie? Experience their first heartbreak? Or is it when they gain understanding of the faults of our world while being unable to change the reality before them? In Takopi's original sin, we watch childhood unravel under the weight of cruelty, neglect, and grief. Innocence isn't just lost here. It's stolen. Unfortunately, those doing the stealing are often victims themselves. This is a story about loss of innocence and the cycles of trauma passed down like an inheritance no one asked for, and the moral tightrope of intervention, deciding whether to step in, knowing that even the purest intentions can leave lasting scars. It's not just a tragedy, it's a mirror reflecting how quickly a child can become something else entirely and how easily we can mistake that transformation for growing up. Takopi's original sin was written by Taisen 5, a brilliant mangaka that explores darker themes. The anime was produced by Inishiya, and the story is expressed through the beautiful musical composition by Yoshiaki Fujisawa. Initially, Takopi's original sin looks like a slice-of-life piece about a whimsical alien befriending children, with soft, round character designs, large expressive eyes, and pastel tones suggesting a gentle story of friendship and discovery. Beneath this comforting exterior lies a narrative steeped in heavy themes, creating a deliberate and devastating dissonance. The cute art style becomes an emotional Trojan horse, luring readers in with innocence before confronting them with abrupt, jarring scenes of violence, grief, and death, mirroring how trauma often intrudes on childhood without warning. Though dealing with heavier themes, we are introduced to characters Shizuka, Marina, and Azuma, three fourth graders who meet the alien Takopi. Through these characters, the story grounds its exploration of trauma and morality in the fragile lives of children, making Takopi's presence both a catalyst for wonder and a mirror to their pain. These themes are similar to works like Made in Abyss or Goodnight Punpun, where innocence is sacrificed and concealed in cute packaging. A lot of the words that I'll be using to describe the children in this story will seem a little mature, and not often words that you would use to portray a child's actions. But unfortunately, these events are accurate to the heaviness of this piece. This video will touch on sensitive topics such as abuse, trauma, and death. So if these topics are triggering to you, feel free to click off now. I will also be talking about spoiler-heavy material, so if you still haven't seen or read Takopi's original sin yet, feel free to click off this video, save it, and come back to it later. The story follows Takopi, an alien being that is sent to spread joy on Earth using happy gadgets. He finds himself entangled in the conflict between two fourth graders, Shizuka and Marina. Shizuka is quiet and withdrawn, living under the shadow of a neglectful home life where she lacks a father and has an absent mother. Marina, a classmate of Shizuka, bullies her through cruelty and manipulation, shaped by the dysfunction of her own family. Unfortunately, Shizuka's mother's occupation has caused friction in Marina's home life. Her job as an escort has caused difficulty in Shizuka's life as she continues to have relations with Marina's father, propelling Marina to harass and assault Shizuka. She slaps, kicks, pushes, and punches Shizuka on a constant basis and destroys her property. These harsh actions lead to Shizuka doing the unthinkable and takes her own life 15 minutes into the very first episode. Takopi, naive to human morality and unable to grasp the complexities of death, tries to fix their problems with his happy gadgets, but his well-meaning interventions often worsen the situation, setting off a chain of irreversible tragedies. His gadgets, though initially introduced as a means for joy, were used to harm more than to help. Later, the audience is confronted with another death, as Takopi's gadget was used to kill Marina in an effort to protect Shizuka. We see in multiple occurrences that Takopi's involvement create more complications than necessary. The story overall highlights the hardships impeding upon each life and understanding the actions that are followed by these traumatic incidents. In Takopi's original sin, we deal with the loss of innocence. It seeps into every character's arc, shattering any illusions of childhood purity. Shizuka, already burdened by the relentless bullying, is forced to isolate as a means of survival, which becomes manipulating others later in the series. Marina, initially portrayed as confident and socially dominant, is revealed to be masking her own fractured family life. Azuma, caught between loyalty, guilt, and a desire to protect Shizuka, must confront the moral weight of choices that no child should bear. Lastly, Takopi, the naive alien whose mission is to spread happiness, is confronted with the cruelty of human life, his optimism eroded as he becomes complicit in tragedy. Together, their intertwined fates form a bleak mosaic where every attempt to protect innocence instead accelerates its destruction. There are a few moments in the series that show the bliss of childhood, but then it's rapidly taken away by a sobering reality that they're living in. The loss of innocence is a traumatic experience that can affect the individuals that perpetuate the trauma towards others. Initially, we see Shizuka as a victim of numerous outlets of abuse, but later we see that Shizuka is no longer the innocent, helpless child we thought she was. In his moment of vulnerability and willingness to help Shizuka, Shizuka manipulates Azuma and convinces him to take blame for Marina's murder. Later, we see that it is implied that Shizuka kidnapped her father's children due to her realization of her father's abandonment and implication of Chappie, her dog's, death. Already in distress and on a rampage, we see her pound a rock to Takopi's face repeatedly as she sobs. We are now confronted with the reality that Shizuka is no longer the same person we knew her as. Marina's loss of innocence is portrayed through the way her childhood is overshadowed by neglect, manipulation, and the premature burdens of adult-like struggles. She experiences these hardships as she enters her home, witnessing her father breaking furniture, verbally abusing and cheating on his wife, while her mother beats her in response. This exposure to pain at such a young age strips her of the trust and purity that normally define childhood, leaving her to cope with harsh realities before she is emotionally ready. Her father's neglect and mother's physical abuse create a ripple effect in Marina's life that is mirrored through her actions. Her sharp words, violent actions, and moments of cruelty reveal how her innocence has been replaced by defense mechanisms meant to protect her fragile sense of self, illustrating how early wounds can distort the natural process of growing up. Azuma's journey reflects a painful loss of innocence that comes from being forced to confront adult realities far too early. Though he begins as a kind and protective boy who simply wants to shield Shizuka from her suffering, the weight of witnessing constant cruelty, neglect, and despair gradually erodes his childlike optimism. He tries to save Shizuka in order to satisfy his needs of making his mother proud. A major contribution to Azuma in the story was his role of assisting Shizuka and Takopi in hiding Marina's dead body. He swiftly jumps into action, deciding whether they should turn themselves in or should proceed to hide the body. In losing his carefree childhood, he becomes a symbol of how trauma strips children of their innocence, pushing them into roles of guardianship and sacrifice before they're ready. Lastly, Takopi in the series is marked by his exposure to the harsh realities of human cruelty and suffering. Initially portrayed as cheerful and naive, he enters the world with a pure-hearted desire to help others, believing that kindness alone can heal pain. However, as he witnesses the extent of bullying, manipulation, and emotional trauma around him, he begins to understand that good intentions are not always enough to protect people from harm. His gadgets, initially introduced to help create happiness, are turned into weapons of destruction. He then realizes that although created with good intent, others can still take advantage of these tools for harm due to their human flaws. An example of this is when Takopi brought the ribbon to Shizuka, who in turn uses the ribbon to hang herself. We witness Takopi undergo conviction and realization of the weight of losing a human life. Takopi, while beginning to understand the complexities of Marina's life, sobs and realizes the burden of mortality again as he took Marina's life. Takopi throughout the series develops a deep understanding of human intricacies but also loses his innocence in the process. In this series, the loss of innocence is a marker of the trauma that is perpetuated in the lives of all the characters. The cycle of trauma is a force that passes pain from one person to the next, often across generations. The children in the story not only inherit the pain from their parents' lives, but also the emotional scars that shape their own actions towards others. Marina's life demonstrates how the cycle of trauma can distort her own reality, trapping her in patterns that she struggles to escape. At home, as previously mentioned, Marina experiences conflict and abuse from her parents' relationship. We see that Marina's home life, even in the previous timeline, that she experiences physical adversities through her parents inflicting physical harm onto her. Unable to healthily process her pain, she projects it onto others at school, attempting to regain control of her life. Shizuka, unfortunately connected to Marina's misfortune, serves as an outlet for Marina's anger. Marina is an example of how the cycle of trauma creates villains in our stories. Shizuka showcases her cycle of trauma through her parents' absence and indifference. Her mother is consumed by work, lacking to provide a space for growth, enrichment, and abandoning Shizuka to fend for her own. Her father, on the other hand, when directly confronted with meeting Shizuka, denies his relations with her. Shizuka is left feeling alone and proceeds to do the unimaginable. We see Shizuka spiraling into despairing thoughts of cutting apart her father's new children and thoughts of murdering others as well. In Shizuka's circumstances, we clearly see how trauma can change innocence into corruption. Azuma initially faces criticism and neglect within his home life, perpetuating the cycle of trauma in his daily existence. Their mother gives Junya, Azuma's older brother, preferential treatment, holding him up as the good son with perfect grades. Azuma's need to feel validated encourages him to seek out success in helping Shizuka. This in turn corners Azuma to shouldering the blame of Takopi and Shizuka's crimes. Fortunately, Junya reaches out to Azuma, letting him know that he is not alone in this situation. The cycle of trauma is broken at this moment as Junya serves as a lifeline for Azuma's shortcomings. In Takopi's original sin, the cycle of trauma and morality of intervention are inseparably linked, as each attempt to break the cycle raises ethical questions about responsibility and consequence. Shizuka, Marina, and Azuma are all shaped by the scars of their upbringing, conducting pain to others around them. Takopi enters this cycle as an outsider whose intervention is rooted in kindness but clouded by naivety. He wants to fix their suffering without fully understanding the depths of human trauma. His actions highlight the moral dilemma of intervention. Is it right to step in and alter someone's life if the harm caused by the misunderstanding can compound their suffering? Takopi has previously lived a timeline where Marina befriends him instead of Shizuka. The entirety of that timeline was resolved in a way that persuades Takopi to alter time so that Shizuka may die because she was thought to be the cause of Marina's suffering. Takopi, unable to understand the weight of death or human morality, enters another timeline where he meets Shizuka, but with suppressed memories, forgetting his original goal to kill Shizuka. This alteration of the timeline prevents Marina with confronting the issues at hand as we see her attempt to take her own life towards the end. Takopi's newfound friend in a different timeline, Shizuka, shares her bread with Takopi, his first friendly encounter in this universe. This allows the audience to believe that this cute story will seemingly continue to unfold in a cheerful way. The tone quickly changes when we see Shizuka take her life in the first episode. The music halts and the only sounds lingering are of cicadas and the tugging of the beam. This moment not only anchors the narrative and tragedy from the very start, but also sets Takopi on a desperate, morally complex path to fix the past, raising the question of whether his interventions will heal or only deepen the cycle of pain. In his desire to prevent Shizuka's death, Takopi engages in various ways to decrease Shizuka's motives for suicide, by helping her answer questions in class, eating her leftover food, and dealing with Marina instead. Takopi removes Shizuka from harmful situations, preventing her from dealing with the issues at hand. The morality of intervention plays a huge part in this series as we see Takopi becoming more intertwined in the children's lives, worsening situations. Takopi soon realizes the faults in his tactics, but proceeds to involve himself anyway to try to alleviate the children's problems. We see the happy camera rewind time, but it inevitably ignores Shizuka's reality and ends up isolating her further. Shizuka does not confront her issues in a healthy manner as Takopi shields her from development and experiences. In the end, we see Takopi come to the conclusion that what Shizuka and Marina needed were not direct actions from an outside force, but rather reconciliation in a healthy way through themselves. He uses the last of his happy magic to rewind time using the camera, but this time, the children were to go on without his existence. Though no longer present, Takopi has left an emotional imprint on Shizuka and Marina's life, bringing them to an appeasement. Their experiences with Takopi connect the two children. Takopi's last wish was for the children to reach adulthood together, and by removing himself from the situation, he finds that the tension in Shizuka and Marina's life has dissipated as they navigate their own emotions to find forgiveness. In the end, Takopi's original sin presents a story where innocence is stripped away too soon, trauma repeats itself through each generation, and how actions with the purest intent can still carry unforeseen consequences. What begins as a whimsical tale of a naive alien immediately unravels into a brutal examination of human suffering, forcing the audience to confront how pain is inherited, how choices ripple outward, and how morality becomes blurred when trying to save others. By weaving these themes together, the series leaves us with a haunting reminder that good means alone cannot heal deep wounds, and that sometimes the attempts to fix what is broken only exposes how fragile we truly are. Thank you for watching this video. Please feel free to like and subscribe and leave a comment down below and let me know what your favorite moment of Takopi's original sin was. Thank you so much, and we'll see you in the next video. Bye!